It was at his instigation that I did the weekly draw for the village hall, which was drawn at the Dragon. We sold tickets that were on a roll, a bit like railway tickets used to be, and there was about 10 collectors, and we had some bags made, and so many tickets in each bag, and they collected around the village for the village hall. Whatever we collected went to the village hall, but I don't remember any amounts. I know we had prizes of £5 and £10. I know that the loo upstairs was the ladies, and the outside there was a sort of a wall built up on 3 sides with the tank, because we used to have oil, yes, for the central heating, and that was the roof of the gents, and it was very very basic. It was a very good wood floor, and underneath, between the floorboards and the what supported them is that there was these wedges, and there was an awful lot of wedges, and it was a faulty idea to my mind, because these wedges gradually fell out, and you had to get underneath and pop them back in again. If it was too rigid, it wouldn't do it. So for a dance floor, it's got to be slightly sprung. Yes, well, we went through the front doors, of course, and that there was a gents' cloakroom that side and a women's cloakroom that side. Then it fed into the hall.
The committee decided that they wanted to change things. They needed to change things. It needed to be given a facelift and be able to do other things. Now, they had an attempt previously in 1962, well, a thought about doing it, but that was abandoned. But what that scheme required was actually to acquire a piece of land and give back a piece of land at the rear of the existing hall so that it could be squared off, and they thought make a bit of sense at that time. Well, it never happened. In 75, 76, and it was desired to carry on and get cracking and do something properly that time. Well, Sid Evans had actually organised loans and a lot of finance, and a lot was raised locally.
We raised ever such a lot.
At the end of the day, I was approached by Sid to would I do the drawings, would I be the architect for the scheme? So I said, of course I would, I'd love to do. So there was quite a bit of work, but between us, we sorted it all out, and I think pretty well what you see at the moment now.
I'm going to say it's more or less the same.
And in fact, the stage was at the other end, I may have told you before, was at the other end of the hall. And I can remember Don and Brian Hall had this, I don't know what you call it now, great big sort of thing, like a trolley jack or something, but a huge one.
And Don Griffin.
Don Griffin helped you, yes, I remember Don.
We actually did it by turning it round. We had to turn it right round so that it fitted the other end in the direction that we wanted it to be. And we did it by using car jacks, actually. We put a car jack under each corner. And I'd measured it, obviously, being an architect.
And it would just go round.
I measured the diagonal dimension of this.
Yeah, it would just...
And it would just go round with about an inch to spare on each of the radiators either side.
Then when the village hall was refurbished, the first time round, Quinton took on the role of coordinating it. And I remember the whole family, my son says he can remember being round there painting the village hall. Everybody had to go, and we got a group of people and used to go around. But there was a great feeling of community there, and it was ours. We had ownership of it.
Must have been back in the 90s. It was poor. The windows were the original windows, which were very small pane, narrow glass, thin glass. The putty was falling out. They're ever being repaired. But at that time, the existing committee were looking at a new hall, and that was the most likely place for the new hall was out on the end of Fox Lane. But when it went for public consultation, nobody liked the idea of the hall being out there, as it was then, on its own.